Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We are here with return guest John Meese, who is the author of the excellent book, Survive and Thrive, How to Build a Profitable Business in Any Economy. I think we see like 5 copies of the book on screen. There's the ones we're holding. There's like 3 behind you. And the thing they need to know about John is he is the CEO of CoWork Inc. He's the co-founder of Notable. He is the dean of Platform University from Michael Hyatt. And he wrote this book which you need to know to survive in any economy, including the COVID economy, the post-COVID economy, the post-Lambda economy, wherever you find yourself in. And so we're going to be talking about this book. So John, glad to have you back.
Thank you so much, Robert. I appreciate you having me. And, it's fun to come back, honestly. And I will say one thing has changed since I was back, actually. So you mentioned the dean of Platform University. That's not true anymore because we actually sold Platform University. And so that was like my last act behind the scenes of dean. And so this book is part of the next era of things. So I still actually go back to Platform University as a guest teacher from time to time, like I did just last week. But that's how we first connected. So here we are now.
But off to bigger and better things. And that's something that I try to kind of tap into about like people like you who are, I don't know if like calling you like a businessy guy is the right term, but there are these people that they seem to always be, building something up or selling a business or like acquiring a business. And that it's inspiring because there's kind of that tendency to sink in and to be like a contractor or be like a person with the skill who happens to be running a business. And you always hear about like the place where you should be is instead be someone who runs a business who then hires the people that like, have the skills. And it's kind of a hard thing to tap into and to always be kind of on the move on. So congratulations on your advancement in the business world and selling this thing off, but sometimes coming back as I don't know if it's like a professor emeritus or something along those lines, but congratulations with that. And so where we last left off was I think we were a few months into COVID and you opened up a co-working facility at what you could say is the worst possible time. And I think you were open for like 58 days and you had to shut down. So to catch us up, what the heck happened there?
Well, I mean, all that happened. And then COVID-19 was eradicated and the world opened up and everything went back to normal.
JK. Fantastic.
Kidding. All kidding aside. So we were closed for a total of 48 days in the co-working space. But I'm still in it right now. We're talking, a year and a half later, and I'm still in the co-working space and still up and running and doing much better than before. But I spent some of that time where I really, dug in to recognize that, first of all, there is a real health crisis going on all over the world with COVID-19. And that's something that I can both recognize that I don't have any skill set that really is useful in that arena. I also recognize that there's this economic crisis going on all over the world where people's livelihoods are being changed, where their job is changing or their business is changing or their world is changing, and they need some sorts of security and semblance of sanity. And so I took that on as my job essentially last year. And so I started by locking myself in a room and writing the first draft of my book as a way to just kind of document the things I'd learned about building businesses. Because at this point, I built 3 businesses from scratch and bootstrapping those and like what worked, what didn't work, all that kind of stuff. That's where I started. But then I finished that and I thought, you know what, if this is going to be a playbook that's really going to help people all over the world, it needs to be stronger than just my story. And so that's when I started my podcast, where I went in a month period of time, I recorded 30 interviews with different business mentors about what they were doing in their current business, what they learned from their history of building businesses. So people like Michael Hyatt, Ray Edwards, Philip Stutz, Mike Michalowicz, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, many other incredible entrepreneurs. And I took those interviews and I transcribed them and I just took out the best parts that and distilled that down. And then I combined that with my book. So I'd already written the rough draft, but I combined their stories with my book and realized there was a pattern that showed up over and over again, no matter what industry you were in. And so the book is really about the pattern of like, forget my story or forget Michael Hyatt's story or Rabbi Daniel Lapin's story. This is your story of how you build a thriving business. And that's what the book's based on.
And I feel like, because I read through the book today and it's a pretty quick read. And I feel like and so that makes sense now because like it sometimes jumps into like the Mike Michalowicz little chunk or like a Michael Hyatt kind of chunk. And there's lots of little lessons. Like something that sticks with me is the like Michael Hyatt had this habit of thinking 16 weeks ahead and saying like, well, like
Hmm.
what are all the expenditures we're going to have and what things are we expecting? And there was like a thing about with the goal setting. There's like the MTO, like, well, instead of just setting a
Yeah.
goal, set your minimum goal, like just to get by, your target goal, and then like your stretch goal,
You're
or I feel
outrageous.
what's
Yeah.
out your outrageous goal. But so
Yeah.
I feel like it was like the last third or so is kind of like that part, like the being prepared for the future and being
Hmm.
organized and having a helpful business. But then I feel like maybe the first, or like maybe like the middle third or so, like I think the big idea, at least from what I got of this, was this idea of like you're not just selling a product, you're selling like
Hmm.
this whole universe, and like your product, it can be like a part of it, but you might have like 8 or so products that all like fit together. And you kept kind of going back to this idea of like the woman's department store. Like you're not
Yeah.
just selling a dress, or you're not just selling shoes. Like that can be the thing that gets people in there, but it's like this whole kind of package. And ideally, there should be a package that kind of gets people where they need to go, and the products are just the pieces that get them there. And so, kind of like, I guess the lesson I got from all of that was that it's okay to pivot, and it's okay to maybe throw out parts of your business, but like don't be married to just like one concept or one product, and be more focused on like where are you going to get people. And then that makes it less painful to kind of change up your business, and let it evolve and adapt over time, because you're still just getting those people to where they need to go, whether it's like the nice outfit for work, or to get their online platform, or things like that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's a great distillation of some of the key concepts in the book. And so I'm glad that those stuck, and I'm glad you enjoyed the book. And then I would say, yeah. So I mean, the way the book's organized, that it's actually the first third of it is marketing, and then this middle third is sales, and the third is finance. Because the reality is, I actually had all the finance stuff first, because a lot of entrepreneurs don't manage their financials well in terms of like cash flow management, or profit first, or anything like that. I had that at the beginning when I first wrote the book, but I realized it doesn't really matter how well you manage your money if there's nothing to manage. And so instead, I moved that stuff, all the organization stuff, to the back, and focus then on like, let's focus on marketing and sales and growing your business, so you have money to worry about. Um, but then, yeah, you're exactly right. Everything I come back to in business, in this book and elsewhere I teach, comes back to this idea that business is built on creating a real solution to a real problem for real people. That's entrepreneurship, plain and simple. Um, Now, of course, that solution is probably a product, but the businesses that do the best in any economy, even when COVID-19 or government restrictions or controversy in your industry throws everything around, the businesses that do the best are the ones that stay focused on the fact that they're not in business to sell a product, they're in business to sell a solution. And it may be that the solution needs to shift based on how people's needs change. Because as a customer, a real life human being, as their life changes along with you, their needs change. And so they have different problems, they need different solutions. And so the businesses that did really well during, 2020, and that did during it really well during 2008 and during 2001, and every other crisis that has happened and will happen, are the businesses that stay focused on that, on the fact that they're in business to create a real solution to a real problem for real people.
And that's one of those like ideas that I feel like I need to like maybe like write on a piece of paper, or write on like a whiteboard somewhere, and just like always be like coming back to, and thinking, because it's easy to get second guess yourself, and it's easy to get caught up in like the
Yeah.
the technology. Like I think you said at one point that didn't you own a theme company, or like a
Yeah.
WordPress company of some kind? And it's so easy to think about like, oh my gosh, like what's my next theme, or am I going to do with this, with like the Gutenberg blocks, or this change in WordPress? And it's like, okay, those things are important, but then there's the bigger picture, which are the people. And I mean, and especially with WordPress specifically over the years, I mean, there's been so much of just like people's needs changing there all the time, right? Like some people
Yeah.
want to host their own WordPress site, or maybe we host it for them, or maybe they want like all these packages all in one, or like all these extra add-ons, or like yearly theme maintenance packages. And it's really easy to like just really like second guess yourself as far as like what these people need, and what you're going to create for them.
Yeah. Well, and if you're in the business of selling, let's just use that example. Let's say you're in the business of selling WordPress themes or WordPress plugins. Well, it's sort of like, you've probably heard the phrase, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You know, and it's sort of like if you're in the business of selling WordPress themes and plugins, you're going to stay focused on selling WordPress themes and plugins. And if something goes wrong with a WordPress theme or a plugin, that's where all your focus goes. And you may miss the fact that all of your customers have shifted their business model. And so now their entire business is built off of social media and live streaming video on different social media platforms. And the fact that your WordPress theme is not really, doesn't interact with that at all. So we had to stay focused on, like, and Notable, one of my companies, we had to stay focused on what are consumers doing, what do they need. And we discovered that there was like more and more people in different industries were growing their audience by focusing on creating really highly engaging short videos, some of it live, some of it not, on different platforms. And most WordPress themes that were built for like a blog or maybe a podcast, at the best, they're like, yeah, you could just kind of like embed that on your website. That's cool if you want, but that's not really like taking into account what people want. People want is to engage with their audience. And so what we did was we rebuilt our flagship theme, Notable Press, which you can learn about at notable.press if you want. We rebuilt that so that when you're going live on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, your entire homepage on your website automatically updates to show your live video front and center with the live chat right there. And so now you can tell your subscribers, you can email them, and instead of saying, hey, go find me on Facebook, you can say, go to my website.com. And the whole live stream experience is right there. So they're able to still have their own brand front and center and all of your own tools to grow your email list and things like that. But you're also leveraging the benefit of the social media platforms. So you got to get the best of both worlds, because if you build everything on social media, well, that's a problem, because the minute they have a board meeting or a new algorithm change, you might lose your whole business, you know? And so you need to have a home on the web that you control and own, but you still want to leverage those other platforms. And so that's why, again, we had to stay focused on the fact that, like, we don't sell WordPress themes, you know, yes, we sell WordPress themes, but that's not the solution we're creating. The solution we're creating is a content creation platform that allows you to grow your audience and to generate revenue from that. That's the solution we're selling. These are just tools to help you get there.
And like one with that clicked for me a couple of years ago was I had some podcast guests and we were talking about the same subject of like not being tied to a keyword. And he was like, well, it's like if you're at a ball game and the guy with like the hat and the big old suspenders in the tray, and he's saying like, peanuts, get your peanuts. Well, if you're saying, get your WordPress themes, then you're just kind of barking out just this one keyword. And it somehow it seems cheap. It seems like it's kind of a little bit fly by night. Seems like I don't want to pay a lot of money for it, versus if it's this whole kind of like thought through solution, then that seems a lot more valuable. And so as far as that specifically that solution there that you mentioned of like, okay, you live stream and your theme and your website changes into whatever you're live streaming right now, like a couple of ahas went off for me there. And like one from hearing that story, one is like, well, what is someone maybe doing 5 clicks to do, right? What is an activity that's just a pain in the butt that could be automatic or could be 1 click? And then also what's something that they're doing right now that's kind of like too risky, or too putting their eggs in one basket or something, or just what's like not the best solution for them. And so that way there's kind of like the marketing piece of saying, well, this isn't the best solution for you. And then as far as the taking action piece, you're like, well, instead of you having to do 6 or 7 clicks and having to say, well, go and find me on this channel and change up my blog front page to be this, what if it all just happens? So it just makes me curious, like, how do you come across these ahas? Because I imagine that there's like months long of thinking involved, and there's like a lot of like talking to your customers, but how do you come to these conclusions that, for example, the WordPress site needs to change over when there's a live stream, things like that?
Yeah, well, I think you started to hit on it when you mentioned just talking to your customers. That's probably the easiest way, is find out what are they actually trying to do. Like, don't talk to them and try to convince them your product's the best. Just figure out what are they trying to accomplish. But I would say that, I believe empathy is one of the most powerful skills in business, but you can cultivate it. Empathy isn't just an on and off switch. It's not like you're an empathetic person or you're not. It's more like it's a skill you can cultivate. And empathy is your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to think and feel like they think and feel. And so you want to get to that point where you remember, first of all, this is why I always say business is creating a real solution to a real problem for real people. I say the word real 3 times because it's so easy in business to get focused on how many followers do I have? How many subscribers do I have? How many customers do I have? What's my monthly recurring revenue? What's my conversion rate? And to forget that every single one of those is a human being with a soul, with hopes, with dreams, with ambitions, with sleepless nights, with sickness, whatever. And so you got to stay focused on the fact that these are real human beings, and then focus on what are they trying to actually accomplish. Now, this is an oversimplification, but the 3 broad categories of how your business can help someone is that you're either trying to help them become healthier, wealthier, or happier. Which one of those is it? And then work backwards from there. Amazon did a great job of this when they first came on the scene, where Jeff Bezos recognized where everybody thought that they were in business selling products online. That's what people thought they were doing, right? There was this e-commerce boom. Like, we're selling products online. And Jeff said, no, we're not. We're getting products to people. And so he started looking at how can we remove barriers of getting products to people. So one of those was, and we take this for granted now because everybody does it, but at the time, every single website in the world, if you wanted to buy something, you had to enter all of your information, name, address, credit card information, every single time. And so he said, what if we just create an account center where you could save it and then they could just click a one-click checkout? What if you just with one click, you could buy a product? And everyone was like, that's crazy. That's complicated. He said, but it gets us closer to the goal. And so they did it and they dominated. And then he said, okay, what's the next thing? Well, whenever someone buys a product online, we're not in the business of selling products online. We're in the business of getting products to people. And it takes 2 weeks to ship a product. We need to ship it in 2 days. And everyone said, that's crazy. That's insane. He's like, that's what people need. It gets us closer to our goal. And so he made it happen. And so that's a great example of where he built this massive business. Jeff Bezos built this massive business. He's literally taking him to space now, based on staying focused on the real solution they offer as a company.
And so how do you like arrive at those solutions? Because you mentioned there's the empathy aspect, and then we've also mentioned there's the reducing the hassle of these things, right? Reduce the having to enter credit card information every single time. But is there a repeatable way to get to the magic every single time? Because it just seems like, throughout history, Steve Jobs thought of this and Elon Musk thought of this. How do we get these Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos types of ideas almost on demand?
That's an interesting, fascinating question. I don't have a formulaic system that I teach there, but I would tell you what I would do is what I do right now is just literally go through, this is a mental exercise, but literally wipe your brain, clear your mind. You are brand new, and go to your website or your app and walk through the process of purchasing and using your product. And just make notes every time you pause. It doesn't even have to be bad. Every time you pause, just be like, why did I pause? I didn't know what to do next. Why was that? And see if you can remove one of those barriers. Every time something takes you an extra second, see if you can remove one of those barriers. So it's literally just walking through your own customer experience is the first part of it. For me, I also like to, focus on results by dialing in the product offerings to having 3 core products. You can have more products than that, but this is one way you can dramatically simplify the customer purchasing process, is have a gateway product, a continuity product, and a flagship product. Now, a gateway product, the goal of the gateway product is actually not to make a bunch of money. The goal of the gateway product is to be a painless purchase so that your customer can take a risk because they're following you, they like you, they're thinking about maybe trusting you, and you tell them, hey, why don't you just spend $5 and buy this product, or $50, depending on your target customer, whatever a low painless purchase is for them, where that gets them in the door, where they become a customer, and then you can blow their socks off by wowing them with transformation. And they go, wow, you just earned my trust. And now maybe they're thinking about your flagship product, which is maybe the $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000 product, again, depending upon your target market and the demographics. But that flagship product is sort of you communicate right away, this is the epitome of the full transformation of what we offer. And even though 95% or more of your customers will never buy that flagship product, if they see it and they know it exists, it gives them something to aspire to. And so it gives them a reason to engage with you and your brand, your customer. Now, the continuity product or the subscription product is just a way to keep automatic customer engagement month after month after month. So you don't have to keep selling them tubes of toothpaste or razors, but you can get them so that they're automatically being customers month to month. It's the glue that holds everything together. If you just have a gateway product, a continuity product, and a flagship product, you can build an incredibly successful, profitable business. But if you build more, you can have more products than that. But the goal is, if you have more products than that, make sure you don't confuse people on which product is your gateway product, so they know where to begin. Which product is your continuity product, so they know how to stay and engage with you day after day, month after month. Or which product is your flagship product, so they know what full transformation looks like. Does that help?
It does, and it gives us a lot to think about. So gateway product, continuity product, flagship product, and you're making me think about, guys like Grant Cardone is like Cardone University, or Hyatt has Platform University, which we
Yeah.
were mentioning before, and yeah, that's huge. Just giving people like the thing to move up to and aspire to, and the whole idea also of the gateway product. It kind of, I guess, the way that hits me is to maybe not be super married to our products. And it's really easy to say, well, I put all this work into making these videos, and I'm just gonna, the product's most important thing. And you're making me think of, in the book, you mentioned a little bit about that co-working space and how you did things like you filled up like the bookshelf with a bunch of like business books and things like that. And so the co-working idea in general makes me think of, like, I've talked to co-working people on this podcast before, and a lot of them are just like obsessed with giving away things for free because the co-working space is just to get them in the door. And those, some of these co-working people will say like, oh yeah, try us out for a week and just come in and bring in your backpack, and you can work here for a week and you'll love it so much that you want to stay in. And then also I imagine that, like, for some people, the co-working space is maybe like an incubator of sorts, or a way to figure out joint ventures or podcasting or live events or things like that. And so, yeah, the whole, even just the idea of the gateway product in general, some people talk about having like the self-liquidating offer or the tripwire or things like that. But it
the
seems
loss
like
leader,
things like that. But it seems like your idea is kind of like, it's slightly bigger than all that. It's like you said, well, like blow them away and get them to do more things with you. And that also makes me think of, okay, so with the continuity product, you're coming out of Platform University, and I know we keep mentioning that, but I've seen so many of these kind of continuity forever, content-based, non-auto ship, non-e-commerce sites really fail, right? They'll start with like big aspirations, and they'll load up so much content in there that you'll join and you'll never be able to get through it all. So you'll just have to stay and keep paying every month, and you won't notice the bill on your credit card. And it seems like they all crash and burn pretty quickly. So like, what do you think that you were doing right, or what do you think like Platform University was doing right as far as this continuity site where so many other people mess it up?
Well, you kind of just gave it away, because what you were just quoting were all of like the wrong reasons to start a continuity site. Is if you're all focused on the product and saying like, okay, we're just going to give them so much content, there's no way they can finish it until stay members forever, and then eventually they're going to just forget that they have subscriptions, and like we're just going to like basically take their money. Like, I mean, like they agreed to give you the money, but instead, if you come back to the focus of business being transformation, the question has to be, how are you creating a continuity product that has so much value, that's giving them so much value on a monthly basis, that's making their life better, that's making them either healthier, wealthier, or happier, that they can't imagine doing without it? Now, you also got to know that there are seasons in everyone's life. So you're never going to create the perfect product so that like you're going to have customers stay for literally ever. Because even a customer who may love your business may recognize, okay, right now I'm in a season where I just can't spend any time on this, and so I'm going to cancel. So what I would teach is, first of all, with the continuity product, whatever the delivery mechanism may be, digital or physical, the goal of it is to keep someone engaged with your business, and they can be highly lucrative. But what I would say is, coming back to those three, the businesses that I've seen, Platform University included, the businesses that I've seen being the most profitable and successful have all three. They're not trying to build their whole empire on this one subscription product. That's the glue that holds everyone together, so that they can recommend their flagship program, so that they can they can use the gateway product to get people in. Because the other thing is, today, people have subscription fatigue, and we all have like 20 things we're subscribed to. Everything's a subscription now. And so because of that, it's actually kind of hard to sell a subscription product right out of the gate. It's easier if you sell someone a gateway product. It's just a one-time purchase that gives them so much value that they recognize that you've earned their trust. I mean, it's literally just like any other relationship in life. If you've got a friend who just is constantly asking for things but not giving you anything in return, Well, eventually you stop texting or calling them and you just let them kind of fade from your life. Like you don't spend time with them because relationships are meant to be a mix of give and take. We all owe each other something. Um, and that's the same way is true in business. If you have a friend who's always just taking from you, like a subscription marketer who's not really giving you value in return, and then they're they're not welcome in your life. And so don't be that person. Don't be that, entrepreneur. Instead, focus on how you can create something that's so valuable they can't do without it.
And this, it just seems like a theme of our conversation is going back to the empathy, but also
Mhm.
like, and I don't, for some reason my brain keeps thinking like it's a more like a reverse logic. Like it's tempting, or like the natural way of thinking is like, okay, I'll make this thing and they'll give me money, but then kind of the reverse is like, well, what do they want? And
Yeah.
if they were going to give me like $100, well, what could I make that would give them like $300 back or $500 back, or the equivalent? Because like you said, sometimes it's about health, or it's about being smarter, right? Not just about return
Sure.
on my money, depending on like what the niches and things like that. But it's just that's what's, and there's like the second mile concept in your book, like with
Yep.
Chick-fil-A and things like that. And there's like the Dropbox thing where like, they give you this amount for free, and then the more that you recommend to the friends, and it grows based on that. And so there's all kinds of like different approaches, but it's like what it keeps coming back to for me is like, what do they want, and maybe like reverse engineer the offer of what they want. And then the like things like the price and all that, it kind of works itself out, because then it's just a matter of, then it's more like the multiplier or their percentage, and you're not driving yourself crazy with all the second guessing. And somehow it hurts my brain to think about this, but I think that these are all like the really deep concepts that we all need to be focusing on, that it's so easy to ignore or forget about, because we just get caught up in all this day-to-day chaos, especially
Mhm.
during COVID times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think, and the reality is, like you're saying, like it feels like backwards, but it's actually like business that's backwards. Like that at some point we decided that we need to focus on like conversion optimization and marketing hacks. And I'm not opposed to conversion optimization. It's just like, why? Well, because our business is helping people, making the world a better place. Entrepreneurship is beautiful. It's where all of the progress in our world comes from. I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship, and I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurs making money. But the paradox here is that to be successful as an entrepreneur, you need to be more focused on serving people than making money to be able to make the money. It's this paradox that's twisted. But if I could just share one story I learned recently, which I think, since I wrote the book, which I think really illustrates this. There's an indigenous community, and I wish I knew what country it was in. I don't remember offhand. But there's this indigenous community where there was an anthropologist who went to go study them, and she went to go live in their village. And when she got there, she moved in this little hut. And then throughout the day, people kept coming and bringing stuff to her. Like someone would bring her a basket of fruit. Someone else would bring her, like a small table they made. Someone else brought her a goat. And she's just like, what is going on here? And so she has a local guide, and she asks them, she's like, what do I do with all of this? And he said, well, you have to give them something in return. And she was like, oh, okay. So like if someone gave me a basket of fruit, then I need to give them something of like equal value. And he said, only if you never want to see them ever again and you're telling them that you don't want them in your life. And she was like, wait, what? And he said, you have to give them back something. And this is how all human societies work. They just have a great illustration of it here. That you have to give them back something that is either worth more or less than what they gave you. Because if they give you a basket of apples and you give them back a goat that's worth more than a basket of apples, well, then now they owe you. And so there's a reason for you to have a relationship. If they gave you a goat and you give them back a small table that's worth less than a goat, well, then now you owe them. And so there's a reason for you to have a relationship. Human relationships are built on the fact that we need each other. And so this little community, this little village had this built into ingrained in their culture. But I think it's true at a global scale that in business, the reason why customers keep buying from us is because they feel like what we're giving them is so valuable that they owe us. And the reason why we get paid for that is because we've created value in their life because we need each other. We owe each other something. And so we just have to remember the human dynamic of entrepreneurship, because it's so easy to get lost in the numbers and the data and the likes and the shares and the notifications, and just forget that we're talking about real human beings on either side of this who need our help.
That's huge. That's like really deep to think about that.
Yeah.
It never, there's never quite the equilibrium, but that's a good thing, because there's always the continuing like relationship there. And also what I'm kind of getting is that things like the exact numbers and exact conversions. Like there's a time and a place for that. It's like how you
Yeah.
said you put the financial stuff near the end, right? You put the profit first ideas near the end because that is a thing to be visited at times, but maybe 10% or 20% of the time, not 90% of the time. It's easy to get off track and
Yeah.
it's easy to like forget about the big picture and why you got into entrepreneurship in the first place. And even like before we started recording this call, you and I were talking about on like teaching entrepreneurship to kids.
Hmm.
But like you can't teach only entrepreneurship to kids, right? Like even they still sometimes have to send kids to school, and sometimes it's easy to say like, well, school was just based on teaching kids like the 9 to 5 lifestyle, and the reason why like the bell goes off at school is because it's like the bell going off at the factory. But why not teach both things, right? And why not say, well, in this situation, structure and having assignments and being given work and completing tasks, sometimes you do have to do that, and other times you have to be the big dreamer. But like maybe the lesson is be adaptable, and if the situation calls for this strategy, do that, and if the situation calls for that strategy, do this other thing. And so yeah, there's it's I feel like, man, it's like a whole like lifestyle philosophy discussion we've been having, as far as like sometimes big pictures, sometimes the nitty gritty details. So in order to just not leave our listeners and viewers so completely lost and more confused when they started, like what would you say out of like your book and surviving through COVID, like could you distill like what's the number one most important thing that we all need to be focusing on, especially the next like 12 months moving forward? What would you say?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, okay, so here's a big one. If you sorry, not to throw more big complicated things in there, but this is a big one. The age of information is over. What? That's crazy. I mean, it's sort of like at one point in time, the Stone Age existed, right? People had like stone axes. They weren't that sharp. They broke often, but they didn't know any better. They thought that was the best technology around. And then somebody discovered that you could forge bronze, and the Bronze Age began. And if you were still running a business using Stone Age technology, you are now irrelevant and out of date, right? Well, that similar shift is going on right now. We've just gone from the age of information to the age of insight, where during the age of information, our world was characterized by the fact that we have access to all the information in the world. And so most of the successful businesses over the last 50 years were focused on this idea of getting people access to information, to resources, to products all over the world. But now we have access to everything and we're overwhelmed and we're drowning in it. And so what people are looking for is not more things or more data or more stuff or more access, what people are looking for is insight, which is information that has been distilled and filtered down by expertise. And so if you can position your business, not as like, just to use some everyday examples, don't position your business as the dry cleaner that gets you access to dry cleaning services. Position your business as the authority on dressing your best and being at work. And so, yeah, you happen to use dry cleaning services as one of the ways to keep people looking their best at work, but focus on the inside of like, how can you distill all the complexity of the world down to the one transformation you offer someone? If you're in an information product business, like if you're a coach or a blogger or a podcaster or a YouTuber or anything like that, then you need to focus less on giving people access to ideas. And because people don't want, at this point, people are overwhelmed. They don't want 100 tips and tricks. They want the 3 that matter. And so you need to set yourself up as the authority in your industry. We used to always say like, the Rolodex, you probably heard that 100 times, like, in the Rolodex, like, when someone flips to the Rolodex, they're looking for the plumber, the lawyer, then what are they looking for when they see your name? But lately I've just been saying like, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters, right? Be the Ghostbusters of your industry, where when someone says they have this problem and they go like, man, I want to know what to do about my health, or I want to know what to do about managing my money, or I want to know what to do about looking great at professionally at work, where you're the person and your business is the business that they think of. And that's what's going to be a shift that's just begun, according to the World Economic Forum, not just John Meese. That's a shift that's just begun. It's going to continue to happen over the next 5 to 10 years, where it's going to be dramatic and shift a lot of industries.
That's powerful. And you hear about things like Bill Gates at some point said, get in front of the wave, right? Like every 3 to 5 years, things get disrupted. And instead of waiting for the wave to happen and then trying to play catch up, why not get in front of it? So what you're saying is is less information, less of ideas, more of insights, and more of solutions, and more of, okay, here's the person I'm thinking of, here's the person I'm going to call. So these are all things that we need to be deeply and longingly thinking about, so that way we can get to where we need to go in our business. And the book is Survive and Thrive. And so where should people go to get this book, to find out about you, to find out about your course? Give us some URL, some next steps here, some insights, some solutions, right?
So if you go to surviveandthrivebook.com, of course, you'll find links there to where you can find the book on Amazon, Audible, Barnes and Noble, Bookshop, and all the other wonderful places you can buy books. But you will also see an opportunity there where after you order the book, you can put your email address in and download the cheat sheet. So this is the playbook, the one-page cheat sheet of everything we talked about and everything in the book that talks about how to apply this to your business. So I would just go there and start there, because that's a good place to start in terms of the fill-in-the-blank playbook. I'm calling it a cheat sheet, but it's a playbook. The fill-in-the-blank playbook walks you through, clarifying the real people you help, the real problem they have, the real solution that you offer, how that relates to your marketing strategy, your product strategy, all on a one-page plan. So go to surviveandthrivebook.com and you can get that resource for free.
Well, fantastic. So surviveandthrivebook.com. Go there right now while the podcast is still playing. Don't be one of those people that writes it. Yeah, now we have double time. Don't write it down and come back to it later. Do it while we're still on the podcast. At least get the browser tab open. That way you can get to it, because chances are in the next 15 seconds, some other distraction will pop up and
some other piece of information. You'll get another notification,
so something else in the noise, and who needs that? Will that really get you to where you need to go? Will that really build your business? Well, I don't think so. But what will get your business to the next step and to the next crisis, or the next breakthrough, is surviveandthrivebook.com. I personally am going to get it. So you listening in podcast land, we're going there together technically. Surviveandthrivebook.com. Go there, get the playbook, cheat sheet, whatever it makes sense for you to call this one pager, surviveandthrivebook.com. And as we completely finally wrap up, I guess in a good way, right? We left them with a lot of information, but also wanting more, a little bit of that disparity that we talked about, where we delivered so much, and now you're just it's never going to end. You're always going to be thinking about, man, what do I do next to survive and thrive? So any final parting words here, John, before we wrap up this whole conversation, and as people go to surviveandthrivebook.com?
Thank you so much, Robert. The final thing I would just say is keep up the good work. And by that's easy to say. It's what it says at the bottom of every one of my emails that I send out. Keep up the good work. But I want you to think about that. Just dwell on that. What is the good work that you do? What is the work that you do that actually is where you drive results? I don't mean refreshing LinkedIn or scrolling through Instagram. I mean, like, what is the work you do that actually drives results on your business and that makes the world a better place? Do more of that, keep that up, and do less of the rest.